Hello, love. Welcome to Soul Support Sundays here on the Libran Key. These are messages for the highest and the greatest good of the Elsh Collective, empaths, light workers, starseeds, and healers, awakened and awakening souls here on Mama Gaia. Know that if this message has found you or you have found it, that there is something here for you. That is always the intention that I put into these messages. And if you are returning here and part of this family, thank you so much for being here. Sending you so much love wherever you are across Mama Gaia. I am going to be doing a continuation here of the previous soul support message, which I'm going to link right here, regarding timelines and better understanding timelines. And with us here, of course, is Commander Ashtar to help us better understand, to clarify what exactly this means, because it's a term that is being thrown around quite a bit, and he is especially wanting to emphasize that we are very much at a precipice of understanding timelines in a very different way, because there is a kind of consensus right now within spiritual communities talking about timelines that can seem very predeterministic or deterministic, for that matter. And he wants us to be very wary of where this could perhaps be a form of fear perpetuation or fear mongering, is what I'm hearing, okay? Because he's saying, he's calling them camps. There are camps of thought or consciousness or understanding with regard to timelines and how they can be, it's a very, very nuanced thing in how they're being presented to us in terms of being very deterministic, in terms of something that cannot be changed, in terms of something that is predetermined or predestined. He doesn't want to get too much into the talk of what destiny is or what fate is and all that, because so much of what we have actually inherited, is what he's saying here, learned, or even been indoctrinated about or programmed about to understand what that is a part of an old matrix paradigm that's actually shifted, especially if you are moving into new earth frequencies and new earth energies. So it's really important to understand that. Coming back to what we touched upon in the last video with regard to the microcosm and the macrocosm, okay, with regard to your own individual journeys and paths, which is really what he wants to focus on first and foremost here, before we get into the bigger, larger timelines that do exist, he's saying at a planetary level, at the level of Mama Gaia, which are macrocosmic, okay? He wants us to sort of zero in on what is it that we can actually control. That is what we're going to be speaking to here. He really wants to make that clear. There will be a time and place where we can get into the bigger macrocosmic timelines and what that is. But right now he wants to focus on the individual at the moment. And it's really interesting because he's reminding me of the fact that we're moving out of Aquarius season now. There is a lot of Aquarian energy, though, at the moment, still palpable with this Aquarius stellium, all these planets sort of really focusing their energies on that. We are moving in, the sun will be moving into Pisces this evening, Eastern time, where I am. And we're going to get into a whole other thing with that as well. But without getting too far off into that, these energies, these Aquarian energies are really, really interesting. And the reason why, again, we're referring to this new age, this cycle of a new age as the Aquarian age, has much to do with the individual, microcosmic, to the macro, and what that connection is. because Aquarius is very much an independent, individualistic sign, but at the same time is very much connected to, he's saying, I'm even hearing the greater good. That's what he's saying. This bigger energy, this collective energy, okay? And also with the South Node in Libra currently and the North Node in Aries, there is very much an emphasis right now on focusing on our own individual efforts, energy, microcosm, okay? So yeah, that is what the I am presence is what he's saying, okay? So he's giving me a visual to start here. We're just going to kind of continue on to, we talked a lot in the last message with regard to accessing the access point for timelines, and specifically source time, and the importance of presence and being in the present moment, and sort of touched more upon the actual nature of time in that. And this connection to the heart's point, we looked at the sacred geometry of, I'm also going to just draw this very quickly up here. We looked at the sacred geometry of this symbol. This is obviously one of the things that I completely forgot to mention in the last video, because sometimes the obvious completely, you know, depending on the message that's coming through. This is the glyph, right, for the sun in astrology, in Western astrology, in tropical astrology, you know, all of that lovely jazz, okay? This was the sacred symbol that he was referring to with regard to the connection point, right? So this is the microcosm to the macrocosm. This is the heart's point, the access point to which we access that timeline, access time period, the true nature of time, okay? So we talked about that. What he wants to kind of bring into this reading is a deeper understanding, going a little bit deeper with regard to actually understanding timelines and what they are. And also understanding there's a very important connection between understanding divine feminine and divine masculine energies merging to understand exactly how timelines or trajectories is what he's saying. Paths is another word to simplify it, how they work, okay? So he started by showing me these 5 lines. This is like, okay, what's it called in music, right? Because I keep on seeing like when we, oh my God, like the bars in music, right? When we're writing music, we write them, you know, with regard to the bars here. So he's showing me these 5 bars and he's emphasizing the number 5 here, but he's also emphasizing, I should write it at the top. He's emphasizing the number 5, but he's also emphasizing here the spaces in between and that there are 4. So when you add 4 and 5, you get 9. So I'm just going to write these numbers at the top here because they're significant with regard to the fact that we have a number 5 coming through, connected to change, connected to movement. A number 4, which is stabilizing, which is grounding, which we often consider the antithesis to a 5 because it is more, I'm hearing the word inertia. It can indicate not moving. He's showing me the 4 corners of a square, of a foundation, of building blocks, and how they need to stay stable. It's incredibly important that they do not, that they create a stable foundation for a building. But he's also saying that these 2 numbers interact with each other in terms of movement and stability. So the 4 can stabilize the 5, and the 5 can also affect the 4. And he's giving me the analogy here of buildings in Greece, and I know, like, and in countries where there are earthquakes, where there are a lot of earthquakes. So even like, you know, in the States, we know California runs the San Andreas fault line, like all of that is significant here, okay? I'm just making a quick note of something if this wants to come through later. when when they build foundations in countries or in places where there is significant seismic activity, the foundation has to give in some way, and certain materials also need to be used that allow for a give and take of movement. He's also showing me my own personal example to this is the Rio Adirio Bridge in Patra in Greece. Look it up, it's really fascinating. And I believe the engineers who built it were predominantly a team out of France that created, it's fascinating the kind of engineering that went into creating this bridge that accommodates, because there's a fault line. There's like a fault line that runs through the Gulf of Patra. And this bridge is built right across this, okay? And so it has to accommodate, and it's I don't know the technical term for it, but it's a type of suspension bridge, okay? And it has 4 columns, okay? I'm thinking of the Greek word and I can't think of the English word, but anyway, this is the 4 columns, you know, the points that the suspension bridge is attached to. And whenever there is seismic activity, they actually shift. So he's bringing in this analogy to understand that shifting is also a type of stability. That feels like a whole other message that wants to come through with regard to shifting is another form of stability. I'm just writing that down because I feel like that might want to come through for another one. Again, take that, if that somehow is pinging you, there's something he's bringing through for that. Okay, so getting back to the 5 lines in the 4 spaces. When you add 5 and 4, you get a 9. And he's reiterating here the cyclical nature of time with the 9. And he's also showing me the significance of the 9, especially with regard to gestation in human beings. That's another, and pregnancy. So that could be another thing. And he's, here we go. He's connecting it back to the divine feminine, because the divine feminine is going to be coming in big time for this particular message. That's going to be the focus, more so than the divine masculine, which he wants to bring through for the next message. Okay. So essentially, we can, through the lens of the divine masculine and the divine feminine interacting, we can begin to understand more holistically how timelines work. I'm just looking at my notes here, and the cyclical nature of time. So these lines can be seen as trajectory points or timelines, but the spaces in between are also connected to these timelines as well. And this is where he wants to get into this concept of jumping timelines, okay? And he's reminding me again of the heart point here. We're going to get to that in a moment. This is kind of a bit of a side note, and this is where he wants me to also ask if you have any questions specifically about how timelines work, to please leave them in the comments below, because we can get to those questions directly in the next video, okay? I can actually bring those questions into meditation and have them ready. So it can be kind of like a Q&A specifically, and he can bring through some teachings on that as well, okay? So we have to understand, and I'm just going to kind of reiterate here that I want to just sort of emphasize this, because even though, and the crazy thing is I'm using a blackboard here, and he's actually just showing me how important the blackboard is. I love this, because this white, he's bringing it back to, I'm not going to be asking through Pamela's mini deck today. He's just directed me to ask through Work Your Light. Quick side note here, okay? Because the majority of this is just him wanting to bring through this message, but he wants to reiterate the divine feminine through this particular image of the High Priestess in the Rider-Waite-Smith in Pamela's Genius, and the black and the white pillars here that can represent and have been interpreted in many different ways, but he's bringing this through as divine masculine, divine feminine, and the meeting point in between, and this divine feminine access point beyond the veil of understanding timelines and how they work, and the cyclical nature of time with that moon sitting at her feet. Okay, so the blackboard The black part of the blackboard is this divine feminine energy. The spaces in between the white parts, which is the divine masculine. That's what he really wants to emphasize here. And he also wants to come back to this heart point energy, which is more divine feminine in nature, right? And I wrote here specifically, reminding me of heart points now. Your heart point, a determiner in which timeline is your, quote, highest and greatest best. At any given moment, any time you are on the trajectory of growth and expansion, understand that you are always on the highest timeline. That is a side note simply that he wanted to bring in, okay? So I'm gonna make sure I make mention of that before moving on here. Now, these essentially, he says, these divine feminine lines here, or points or spaces, I should say specifically, he's correcting me. He's like, no, they're spaces. They're not lines, they're spaces, okay? Because the divine feminine is associated with that, with the void, the energies of the void, and the present moment and accessing present points through the heart point. These are, he says, convergent points or paths where lines cross, you could say, where we say when lines cross, in the in-between spaces. And he's showing me, again, emphasizing that this is divine feminine, and he's actually giving me here the analogy or the symbol of the equilateral cross. So this energy being the divine masculine, this energy being the divine feminine, and understanding that when we cross those points, we get the equilateral cross, and that is how we understand how timelines work through the lens of the divine masculine and the divine feminine, okay? Through presence, we jump, and that's where we get, he's saying it's not counterintuitive to think that through presence, through what is very divine feminine in nature, through presence, we actually jump. It's not counterintuitive. He goes, this is sort of, I'm just going to get to that point where he said, this is the illusion of duality, specifically is what he said to me, okay? So we have to understand that even though we think certain things, everything is on a spectrum. And even though we believe that, oh, divine feminine is only supposed to look a certain way, he's saying, or divine masculine is supposed to look a certain way, he's showing me that each holds a key to the other. Each holds a key to the other. So, okay, he's kind of giving me the example here of like, when we talk about, and of course this is only one tiny example, but he's giving me the example here of when we talk about the law of attraction. Now, you know, big disclaimer here, we have a lot of information out there about the law of attraction, a lot of pop culture information out there about the law of attraction. But he's saying, obviously, that we have to understand this a lot more deeply, because many people might think that attraction, most of what we see or hear about the law of attraction is in fact and having a lot to do with, okay, so he wants me to say here, this is, okay, he wants me to simplify this. So we have to understand that it is both. Law of attraction is both divine feminine and divine masculine in nature. We have, and actually it should kind of be renamed. It shouldn't, because attraction, he's giving me the example of how in the word attraction, there is masculine and feminine, there is polarity. We have to understand that in order for, like, he's giving me the analogy of magnets. So there's always a positive and there's always a negative. It's not just a feminine thing. It's a masculine thing too, because it's like this idea of opposites attracting, polarities always being pulled to one another. This is how we understand truly how the law of attraction actually works. Knowing also that when it comes to these points and jumping timelines, that is a word or a phrase that's given to something that immediately we visualize some kind of action having to take place, when in fact it's through the presence, it's through the divine feminine. He even said here healing and transformation, if I remember correctly. Where did I write that? I just want to make sure. Like what? Yeah. Through healing and transformation specifically. And then he says it seems counterintuitive, but it's not. Understanding that through, you can inadvertently jump timelines. You don't even know you're doing it consciously. When you have gone through a process of healing or transformation and something shifts. And he's showing me, oh, he's reminding me now, okay. If you've been seeing 1111 a lot lately, and I'm saying, no, 11, I'm sorry, but 1111 could be one of them. I just want to put that up here for a second here. So I've always seen, he wants me to share this sort of personal, and then we'll get to the bigger thing here. I always, and I know that I'm not the only person, okay? I always see 11s, and the number 11, you could almost say like a sacred form of geometry as a portal. Now, what's interesting is the 11 point. When you look at the columns and the idea of this column or portal energy, and this, I believe that Ted Andrews spoke about this in the Occult Christ, and I need to maybe get that and do a separate message on that because it's significant here. The convergence point, the number 11 is very significant in terms of walking through a portal, because in order, once you've done that, the 1 flips down to this to create the equilateral cross. So those 2 points have to be in balance in order for that to happen. And if you've been seeing a lot of 11s, whether it's 1111 or 111 or 211 on the clock, or you see it, you know, I don't know, you flip open to a page and it's page 11, or, you know, you get a bill and it's like something 11 or whatever, okay? He's saying that these are, he's showing me trajectory points again. I just want to tune in really just for a second here for him to bring this message through himself. Okay, he's showing me the analogy of these lines. Isn't that crazy? I didn't even realize I wrote it like that too. Okay, so he's showing me how I wrote 11 here and then the arrows are moving into these actual lines. So we're creating equilateral crosses right across these lines. That is if you're seeing those numbers and if you're seeing those examples around you, there's some kind of connection here to you, like he's saying, jumping timelines, like things shifting, things moving. Be aware of it. And he says, when you see those numbers, this is what he's saying, when you see those numbers, become very present. Ask to be shown something, or pay attention to what you're doing at that time and what you're thinking at that time, because he's showing me that it could potentially be a confirmation of something, or it's asking you to reevaluate. And this is where discernment comes in. Take whatever resonates here and leave what does not. And he keeps on bringing me back to the heart point. And he wants me to read this section again. Okay. Your heart point is a determiner as to which timeline is your highest and best at any given moment. Anytime you are on a trajectory of growth and expansion, understand that is akin to your highest and greatest best timeline. Now, he's also wanting to reiterate here that timelines can change. And this is where we get a more divine masculine energy coming through with regard to changing timelines in alignment to our highest and greatest best, okay? And he wants to get into this the next time that we get into the timelines, because we're trying to bring in this information in a way that is a little bit more, because there's just so much to talk about here. And, you know, I would rather give you a 20 to 30 minute video where you have digestible bites that you can go over, that you can actually, you know, points that you can work on, and kind of like he's almost showing me like a building block fashion, so that you're then able to kind of digest it, because these videos are coming out every week now, right? And before I forget, oh man, I'm telling you, he brought this in though halfway through the meditation. Usually when I get the crystals coming in, they come right at the beginning, but he wanted to bring this apophyllite, this clear apophyllite pyramid in. This example of, quote unquote, what he says you call an Akashic reader, as a time travel point, and understanding that accessing other realms, just like we do through an Akashic reader, this is another example of accessing the realms through this line, jumping, where we go through it, we access the divine. He's showing me the realms as being inherently divinely feminine energies, like the spaces in between here, and that through the access points, she is that access point. Moving through these spaces are the access point of the present, and bringing in this Akashic reader as an example of how we're able to access through the present realms that are not necessarily of the present here on Mama Gaia. That's just one little last tidbit that he wanted to bring through for this, okay? I feel like we're going to want to get more into this as well. Also, I just want to bring in really quickly something interesting here about the fact that this is also a conduit of energy, right? And he's bringing me back now to the heart point, like he's showing me this Akashic reader as an access point through the heart, divine feminine again, okay? So I feel like we're gonna do, yeah, he's directing me to the fact that we'll get into doing the more masculine aspects of it in the next video, and then we're gonna move into the convergence of both, okay? I'm going to be asking now, he just wants to bring through some messages of soul support around this, especially if you've been seeing 11s through this Work Your Light Oracle deck. As I cut the deck, it's the ever unfolding rose. It is not happening to you, it is happening for you, okay? I'm paraphrasing there. That is what it is, okay? So even if you're feeling like this is a little too overwhelming, I don't know what the frick this is, understand he's also saying that with a lot of, this is going to be happening throughout the ascension process, through our evolutionary process, we're going to be encountering things that are going to be overwhelming because it's new, it's unprecedented, right? You know, he's showing me like a moth coming out of the cocoon, he's showing me a butterfly coming out of the chrysalis, a snake shedding its skin, the energies, excuse me, these energies, yeah, and he's showing me like upgrades, a lot of different upgrades happening at different points in your body, different, you know, chakra points, energy centers, upgrades happening to the body. Those are not necessarily comfy processes. It's as simple as that, right? Make sure you're tending to yourself, though, and getting whatever aid or support you need. Share your voice. It's interesting because I just coughed when Come out of the cave, persecution, expression. Thank you, Commander Ashtar. So, persecution wound, witch wound. Something with that is shifting, definitely. I've been having lots of confirmations of that as well. If that's something that has been coming up for you, know that there is some kind of healing, shifting, transformation taking place with regard to that. And also, if this is something that you've been working with, experiencing for a while, to not in any way feel like you feel like maybe you've taken 3 steps forward and 11 steps back. I use that word 11. I use the number 11 purposely here because you haven't. This is an ongoing process. Okay. I'm hearing Mama Gaia, Mother Earth herself, has a persecution wound. Commander Ashtar is showing me this, that this is collective because of the collective persecution wound that exists. Okay, so much of this is being blasted with light. Like, that's what I'm being shown. I'm getting a visual of this being completely blasted open with light. I'm actually seeing it happening over a toroidal field, over someone's field, like through the crown. Oh my goodness. And this is, look, just yes, just say yes came out. Like that's, I'm kind of seeing this. This is what I'm seeing. Okay. Okay. So this is a yes. This is a confirmation here of, yep, if you're seeing 11, 11, 11s, 11s, anywhere, 11, 11, 11, 1, 11, 5, 11, 11 anywhere. But specifically is even showing me clocks, like where you think, even if you're seeing 9/11, oh my, that was just, I mean, I don't say, nothing is ever random, right? I don't know. Okay, there's something there. I'm not going to get into that. Take whatever resonates, okay? You know, 7/11, like you're seeing that on the clock. Any 11s popping up. Confirmation, yes. This is connected to portals. This is connected to timelines. 32 on the counter. As I say that, that's a 5 and a 5. So there's something here with regard to the lines, okay? Something shifting, okay? The changes, the active changes being made in timelines. That is a divine masculine aspect of understanding this. That is what is being confirmed here. Also confirming that if you feel you've shifted, something's changed, it has, okay? Look what's at the bottom of the deck. Share your voice again, okay? I just want to point out here the pyramid structure, these triangular structures being reflected in this card here. There's something in 3 as well, okay? Because there's 3 figures here. These 3 women are here. He's showing me the triangle. I'm seeing the pyramid again. I'm just going to put it here. The 3 points. There is a 3rd energy that interacts with this at the heart point again. That's how he's showing it to me. I'm also seeing, again, conduit of energy. There's something alchemical in this, absolutely. So if you're a student of alchemy, this also applies. Perhaps you can incorporate this in your understanding or apply alchemical knowledge to this, because that is he's bringing me the element of fire back in here, which is interesting. So that did come through with Archangel Raphael last time. I don't know why I'm being reminded of that. Came through with Archangel Raphael last time with the Empath Collective reading on Friday. I just feel, yeah, that I'm feeling like the solar plexus. Okay, so there is an energy here that wants to come through, reiterating the active quality of changing in terms of your actions from a solar plexus. We'll get into this in the divine masculine part of this shifting timeline thing, okay? And we've got the great gathering, It's all coming together, intuitive hits and soul tribe. Okay, really interesting because it's connected to this 11. There's something here with, if you're seeing 11, and if 11s are being seen around you, there's something, okay, there's this deeper understanding going on collectively with regard to those of us who are really tapping into this energetically somehow. Oh, wow. He's showing me like an oversoul of people. If you're watching this, if you're interested in this, if this is something that you're interested in, you're part of like there's a soul tribe energy here with regard to tapping into this 11. I invite you, if you feel comfortable, to, here's the thing. One of the main reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing here on this channel is because of the fact that when you have an awakening and when you begin to get into this spiritual life and a deeper understanding of what this is all about and why you're here and your mission work, being a light worker, being a starseed, identifying with that, being an empath, being a healer, being an awakened or awakening soul. It's to put it really simply, sharing to me is caring, and it's not just caring, but there are more of us than we realize. And interestingly enough, in my experience so far, I'm finding that we're really kind of like spread out across different parts of the globe, across Mama Gaia. And there's a reason for that. It's important that Commander Asher's like, it's important that you're dispersed, because you need to understand too that the more, wherever you are, there's so many different reasons for that. That's a whole other message, and I don't want to make this too long because we're already at 37 minutes. See how long this goes? And all we were doing was focusing on something really specific in this message. And this is where he wants me to bring back this share your voice. Thank you, Commander Ashtar. In sharing what is going on, there are massive confirmations in that. And it's significant, especially when we're in different parts of the world, in different places, in localized, wherever we are localized is what I'm hearing, wherever we are kind of, let's say where we haven't been interacting with each other and we're not talking with each other day to day to know exactly what's going on, right? In our reality, and what we're also getting messages of, when we come into a place like this, for example, where we're able to share with whatever's going on or talk to anybody else who see what's going on, there's a massive confirmation in that. And that's an understanding that you're not just, this isn't just something, and this goes back to the persecution wound, okay? Because sometimes we can feel, and I'm talking about when we are coming from a very healthy, awakened place, I'm making that absolutely clear, a functioning place, we can feel like maybe we are not getting, we're imagining that, okay? And I don't even like to use that word. Like there's something in that even just like, and that comes from the persecution wound. That comes from being told you're crazy for believing this, seeing this, hearing this, whatever. Remember, I'm speaking from a very healthy, functional place, okay, when I say that. So, you're not alone, basically. I think I could just sum it up with that. And that is the reason why I come here and I do what I do, because I don't want you to feel alone. And I know that there are other people who are going through these things and maybe don't have many people to talk to about it. And my readings, everything that I bring forward here, the different groups that I work with, the energies that come through these readings are here to share that wisdom, the knowledge, whatever messages that want to come through with you, always as a confirmation. And this is why he's really emphasizing, Commander Ashtar, this soul tribe, because it's really, we're all doing different work here. All of us who are on this path of awakening, on this path of soul growth, expansion, the expansion of consciousness here on Mama Gaia, we're all doing different kinds of work. And we all have, in a way, our own soul tribes. Kind of going back to this microcosm to the macrocosm again, right? We're all kind of bigger pieces of a grander, like I'm hearing the Greek word like schema, design. Okay? Okay, I'm going to end it there because we're already at 40 minutes. You see, this is what happens. This is what happens. Okay. We will be getting into more of the divine masculine aspects, like I mentioned earlier, of understanding timelines and how they work in the next Soul Support Sunday message. Thank you for being here, for sharing your time and your energy with me in this space. Thank you, Commander Ashtar, for coming through for these messages. I am sending you so much love wherever you are, in love and liberation, always.